After the last few years of watching Senator Hertel speak from here, I assumed and figured out it was the loudest microphone in the room. So let me get the most emotional stuff out of the way. In addition to the good Lord above, who better to have by my side during life and public service but Marcia Hune? You all know her, you all love her, and you all wonder why on earth she chose me. Well, I do too. Marcia worked for Chris Ward, and I thank him every day that he told Marcia that dating me was a condition of employment. He always said it was his biggest legislative achievement. In looking at his liberal voting record, the lib was right. Love you, Marcia, and of course, our 3-year-old son, Alex. My folks have also been my biggest advocates and defenders, and I love them for that also. And in the Hune family, the election efforts are a family affair. It was 20 years ago I walked into this Capitol, fresh off the farm, didn't own a pair of dress pants, didn't know how to even tie a tie. And it was 1998, I was going to college, and I wanted to be a chicken farmer. Then I applied to be a page for the House of Representatives. And when I received the call from the House Human Resources Department that I was hired, they said I had to report the following Monday to Chief Sergeant at Arms Jack Porn. I said, can you please repeat that name? And the lady on the phone said, it's Jack Porn. And I still was a little unclear, and I asked for the spelling. And Jack Porn turned out to be an incredible boss. And he introduced me to the clerk of the House, Gary Randall, who was one of my closest friends. And Gary hired me to work for him for a few years. And then we were having burgers late one night after a late night session at Bonnie's up the road here. And Gary talked me into running for the state house, and I was 21. And he drew out my victory strategy map on a placemat. And I blindly jumped into the race. And in the wee hours following my first primary election, the wee hours of the night, the next morning, I was announced the loser of my first election to the state house by 1 vote. Then there were some issues with the vote tallies, and about a week later, I was announced the loser by 2 votes. We sucked it up, filed for a recount, and thank the Lord above, we hired John Pirich, and ended up winning my first election to the state house after the recount by 2 votes. I've since called John Pirich one of my godfathers. And through my tenure here, I've had the opportunity to have a team that I consider family. Stacy Murray, as you folks know, Stacy was always a hoot. Scott Kempa, who's moved on to the state house. Former State Representative Cindy Denby was on Team Hune from the get-go. She was always instrumental in getting me elected to the legislature. Sam Champagne, who many of you know here in the Senate, who I actually met when his bull was running through my neighbor's neighborhood, or my parents' neighborhood. That's no joke. He was our moral compass in the office. We have an Anthony Camarda, who's going to go on to do great things. Teresa Grace, who will be watching over the citizens of the 22nd District in the coming years under my good friend, Senator-elect Lana Tice. And Amy Shaw, you folks know Amy, was actually my boss in Gary Randall's office. She's been a fabulous teammate and friend. And of course, Troy Tuggle, who's always got a smile on his face. Oh, that's the first one this year. And Troy is always quick to tell me when I look like crap, which seems to be every day. Thank you all for your partnership. Dr. Vopel in the State House is another person that believed in me and helped me get through just about every election, and I thank him for that. I also need to mention my friends, Steve and Dawn Horton. They own our local newspaper, the Fowlerville News and Views, and I love them, their family, and I appreciate all they do for our hometown. We've tackled a ton of issues during my tenure in the legislature, but the one issue that I'm most proud of that may not have received the most headlines was an issue when I was in the State House that we worked on with former Representative / Senator John Gleason. And that was dealing with organ donation. And Senator Hood will appreciate this ever more with his experience. At that time, there was a problem in the organ procurement process where medical examiners across the state would perform an autopsy in a manner that would not allow the organs to be donated in a proper manner to a worthy recipient. And at that time, we moved a bill through the whole legislature. It was sitting on Governor Granholm's desk. And what that bill did was it forced our county medical examiners to coordinate their efforts so that when they did perform an autopsy on an individual who has died, that autopsy had to be done in a manner that would allow gift of life to receive those organs and transplant them in a worthy recipient. The bill was sitting on Governor Granholm's desk, and John Gleason barged into my office and said, "We need to get that bill signed." And I said, "Well, what's the story?" Blah, blah, blah. And he said that a child in Saginaw County has just passed away from sudden infant death syndrome. The county medical examiner at the time wanted to perform the autopsy in a hurry and get off to his golf vacation up north for the weekend. Needless to say, we went into action, got the governor to sign the bill immediately. Governor Granholm, I thank you for that. It was enrolled with the Secretary of State's office, filed there literally within a few minutes. And it was like an episode of ER. The county medical examiner was literally just about to perform the autopsy. And the Gift of Life organization showed him that they have to coordinate their efforts. He stopped the autopsy, and needless to say that baby's GI tract was able to be transplanted into another baby. The baby's kidneys actually at that time were transplanted into an adult, and the baby's 2 kidneys were functioning as 1 kidney in an adult. And then we did a follow-up bill that we worked on with somebody else, whose name's escaping me, that we were able to rename the Gift of Life Law Act after the child that passed away. It's called the Kyle Ray Horning Law. And that, despite everything we've done here, that was probably my crowning achievement because we have literally saved lives with that. I've made a whole lot of friends in this town that I hope will last a lifetime. And it seems like my closest friends are characters. You may have noticed that Amber McCann has been a usual presence on the Senate floor near my desk, and we're usually laughing. And little did each and every one of you know that we are laughing about all of you. But mostly about Craig Ryan. And my best friend in this institution of the legislature was, of course, Virgil Smith. And today I was going to call Virgil my partner in crime. But I decided against it. Chris Ward, if anybody knew Chris, loved him. He was another dear friend. Chris and I were sitting on the House floor one day, and I was frustrated with the deficiencies of a couple of our colleagues. And he looked at me and he said, "Joe, look around at all our colleagues. Everyone deserves representation. That was a darn good line. No one laughed. Former state rep and liquor control commissioner Ed Gaffney is another lifelong friend that I grew to love in this institution, and we still keep in contact. My favorite Ed Gaffney quote is, quote, "The two best qualities you can find in a mate is low self-esteem and no sense of smell." Other former lawmakers that I'm happy to call my dear friends are Deb Cherry, Barb Farah, Fred Dillingham, a name from the past, Bruce Patterson. In fact, Bruce Patterson was always good at giving me lessons, but one lesson in particular that I learned from Bruce Patterson is that an upper lip can have a bad hair day. In this chamber, I've been blessed to call so many of you my friends. To my two seatmates on either side of me, Senator Warren, you are the most studious legislator in the Capitol, and I mean that. It's been an honor to represent Washtenaw County with you, and to any returning member and staff, it would be wise to mimic what RW's constituent shop relations processes are, because they're second to none, they're unbeatable. To my seatmates on the other side of me, Jack Brandenburg. It's not that I had to rack my brain to come up with a story about Jack Brandenburg. It's that I had to rack my brain to come up with a story about Jack that was appropriate for MGTV. And the first was when we were conversing about endorsing Donald Trump for president. I'll never forget this line. Jack said to me, "You know why I don't like Ted Cruz?" I said, "Why is that, Jack?" And he goes, "Because I don't like his face." Amen. But shortly after that, we were at a Trump rally in Macomb County in front of 10,000 people, and Jack threatened to beat up Congressman Paul Mitchell. Judy Emmons, you've been one great partner in both chambers, and you've watched my family grow up. But the interesting thing about the public's perception of this town is they think we all come together to come to Lansing and hate each other, which nothing can be further from the truth. Despite being a very conservative person, I've always befriended the Democrat leader. Diane Byram is a dear friend. Governor-elect Whitmer, who I shared Ingham County with, I consider a dear friend, which leads me to another dear friend. The only man I know that walks around with barbecued ribs in his suit pockets, just in case he gets a craving. My dear friend, Democrat leader Jim Ananich. He's a man after my own heart and my own taste buds. He's a fellow insomniac that I can text at all hours of the night and get a response. But it's not big policy issues that keep each of us awake at night. It's usually just indigestion. And he has now taken over the chairmanship of the Big Boy Supper Club. But this is the honest to God truth. What you may not know about Jim Ananich is that he used to be a competitive swimmer. Serious. I'm serious. Jim, it's a shame we've become so close in the last year or two in office, my last year or two in office, but it's been fun, and I love Mel Crone as well. To Hune Young Hopgood, I appreciate your chattiness and your friendship. Senator Dave Robertson, you're a man that can filibuster a haiku. You are always animated, and you always charge forward with conviction. On a complex issue, you require so much extra work and hand-holding, even though I always knew you were going to be with me at the end of the day. And Senator Wayne Schmidt, you might be a little bit like that too. But looking back, I'm thankful. Thankful because your hand-wringing forced me to sharpen my arguments and ultimately made me a better lawmaker. To the rest of our colleagues that have served on the Senate Insurance Committee, the Senate Agriculture Committees, thank you for your partnerships. And as to the members that served on the Senate Redistricting Committee, if you got subpoenaed, it wasn't my fault. Comes with the territory. And I think that I hold the record for the most vetoes under Governor Snyder. And I also hold the record for the most subpoenas in the legislature. And with all those subpoenas comes a whole lot of time spent with Scott Hughes. Scott, I appreciate your counsel wherever you're at and your friendship. Stephanie McGuire, Sarah Smock, and Malcolm have all been great policy staff to work with, and we're all better served by their efforts. To our friends standing out in the black and white tiles, like Mark Cook, Shelley Stahl, Chris Kraft, Deidre Wilson, Adrian Cazell, Joe Sprolsman, Kurt Berryman, Steve Young, Bill Zagman, Alan Smith, and so many others, you've become like family to me over the years. Incoming Majority Leader Shirkey, you'll do a great job next term, and you'll do even better if you keep Alicia and Amber close. To my Senate Republican leadership, Senator Kowal, my floor leader, you've been a great, steady hand, and your wife always reminds me of the time I asked her if Dave Biswas tucks you in at night. He is your shadow, and I still have not received an answer to that question. To my leader, Meekhoff, I'd periodically send you a text and say, thank you for being a great leader. Arlen, thanks for being a great leader. I really mean those words, and I'm not just sucking up. Although we still need to get something done for horse racing. So thank you to the people of Livingston, Ingham, let me try that one again. Ingham, Shiawassee, and Washtenaw counties. Thanks for your trust in me. It's been a great ride. Thank you.